This video is going to be a commentary on the possibility of the Ravens trading for Kayvon Thibodeaux during the draft or perhaps just before, and also a film study mixed into it. I will have some film of sacks from Thibodeaux in 2023. And about 4 or 5 minutes into the video, I'll give you some ideas on how I think the Ravens could get it done and retain as much of our talent as possible for the 2025 season. First of all, from the film that I saw from the last 2 years, it just confirms everything that we saw in the 2022 draft process. I think his inside moves are better than his topside or speed rushes. They're very quick and explosive. Seems to be better in a three-point stance, in my opinion. And I didn't have that in my notes from the 2022 pre-draft process, which I still retain. It took me a while to find those. A couple of things to mention. In 2023, 11 and a half sacks over 980 plays. So roughly one sack every 85 snaps. There's some loss of accuracy there because there's run plays counted in. I recognize that. Then in 2024, missed a series of games midseason, I think 5, maybe 6, and finished with 5.5 sacks in almost 600 snaps or plays. So this time, one sack every 108 snaps. Fine, there's less production there from a sheer numbers standpoint, but hidden within those numbers is an interesting or revealing trend, at least to me. Kayvon Thibodeaux finished 2024 on a roll. He had, in his last 5 games, he had 3.5 sacks, 7 quarterback hits, 13 tackles, and 4 TFLs. If you extrapolate that over a 17-game season, and I'll just basically multiply it by 3 and then add 10%, you're either at, or I should say really above, 11 sacks, 21 to 24 quarterback hits, 45 or so tackles. All of that is right in line with his production from 2023, his output from that year. Basically, it's who Kayvon Thibodeaux is. It's who we thought he was in the pre-draft process when we watched Oregon film. And then I did a rookie film study of Thibodeaux and a number of other rookie edge rushers in 2022. You're welcome to check it out. It was one of my more popular videos. I'll link it up here during the video and at the end, and it has a significant portion of time spent talking about his rookie season when I believe he only had 4 sacks overall, but also covers Trayvon Walker, Aiden Hutchinson, and Boye Mafe. Let's get to the film study here, and we'll talk about his propensity to win to the inside, particularly against tackles that he thinks are maybe oversetting, or that's just his pre-planned move, oftentimes tagged up or teamed up with a speed rush from the opposite side. So in this case, you've got a speed rush from the top side, Thibodeaux going underneath, and the first thing I really like is it's a two-hand swat oftentimes. He doesn't get as clean of a two-hand swat here. You can see the right hand ends up on the outside and just kind of pushing off. A little bit of a rip with the left hand, the outside arm. Finishes through. He reminds me of like a home run hitter, meaning he's someone who could go 2 for 20 or 2 for 18 in a series, in a particular series, and then he could show up in your city the next weekend and all of a sudden hit 5 bombs. When he has a move that's working, he stays with it, and I like that. He doesn't try to diversify too much, in my opinion, when he's winning, when he's got a matchup that he can win. And I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about matchups here in a moment as it relates to the Ravens and why I think it will be a good move and how I think it could work best, and maybe somewhat either A, unrealistic, or B, that Ravens fans don't like. So something I like about him as a pass rusher and that I had in my notes from 2022, he's not a short-stepping pass rusher. He gains ground. He essentially plays downhill, and his move kind of either works or it doesn't sometimes, depending on what he is. I think that, well, I'll get right to it. I think that the goal, if they are going to trade for him, should be somehow to try to keep Van Noy and Owe and gain Kayvon Thibodeaux. And the way that the Ravens could go about that, again, is probably something that Ravens fans won't like hearing. This is similar inside rush. It's a two-hand swat, a little bit more clean of a two-hand swat. You can see he gets the outside arm, the left hand, to the inside of the left arm, left forearm, if you will, of the right tackle. It's a complete mismatch. It's a genetic mismatch, right? That's what we used to call it here for Thibodeaux to be going up against this guy. And then a little bit of a rip here at the end to get through and clear. Finishes off with another sack. He had a 2-sack performance against the Seahawks. You saw both of them. And I think he had a 3-sack performance against the Jets that year. That's my theory. is that, or my idea is that the Ravens, if they want to get Kayvon Thibodeaux, the best case scenario is not to have to give up Odafe Oweh. And I know that's what's been out there in the last probably 36 hours or so, is that if he's on the market for a team or for the Ravens specifically, that we would be giving up Odafe Oweh. I would say it's not in our best interest to do that. We would essentially be trading one-year contract, Oweh's fifth-year option, for Kayvon Thibodeaux, who has a fifth-year option that we could exercise depending on when the trade is conducted. He's an extremely confident player, and I think that maybe that turned people off in the pre-draft process. And I even recall a lot of people talking about his commitment from high school, that he went to Oregon instead of choosing some bigger name schools. I just find that crazy for people to be talking about during the draft the choice of a school and what that says about a player's character. He's got 20 plus sacks in 3 seasons, I think 21 or 21 and a half to be precise. In my opinion, the goal here should be Oweh, Thibodeaux, and Van Noy for 2025. And what that means probably is giving up pick 59, a round 2 pick, and maybe one of our other edge rushers, a Decosta Isaac or a David Ojabo or something like that. I get it that, well, the reason why I'm kicking that theory out there or that idea is because what we want as fans and as the Ravens front office and coaches, we want to be able to control matchups. I think that's a larger issue for the Ravens than the quality of the pass rushers we have. Oweh and Van Noy put up double-digit sacks. Tavius Robinson, really good against the run. Ojabo has a lot of ability. We haven't seen it in the NFL yet. He's got one more season pretty much to try to put some good film out there. The variability in the types of rushers we have, Kayvon Thibodeaux brings a different flavor, if you ask me. The inside moves, he's a balanced pass rusher, don't get me wrong. Oweh and Van Noy are going to produce. I would like to have all 3 of them. That's my ideal outcome here if the Ravens look into it, but I recognize the salary cap consideration obviously comes into play. Could involve a second trade, clearing up salary to make that possible. It's pretty obvious which one I'm alluding to. It's not the point of this video. So here's another move to the inside, and this he adjusts to the quarterback's drop. So Thibodeaux starts to basically run something similar to that move. He doesn't get his left arm into the inside, so it's not exactly the same move as I described, a two-hand swat. He starts to go to the inside, recognizes the depth of the quarterback's drop, and then crosses over. And again, a genetic mismatch here with a tackle that can't keep up with him. He's able to finish it off. He's a brilliant pass rusher, if you ask me, but it's not like any one move, in my opinion, is a 5-star move. He's a 5-star player, obviously, in college or high school going into college, but I think he's got a whole bunch of very good moves. And when I said that he's a home run hitter, he's someone who can dominate a matchup. And he had 3 sacks in this game from the film that I just showed you. I'll give you the other 2 that were against Mekhi Becton. 2 sacks in that Seahawks game. He's a guy who, when things start happening, when things start to go well in a matchup, he keeps it going and pretty much stays with the same moves. Also, he's got really long arms, and he can deal with the bigger tackles in a way that perhaps shorter armed pass rushers cannot. That's one of the reasons why people focus on that so much in the draft. I recognize it's probably alarming or disruptive to our pre-draft thought process to talk about giving up a round 2 pick, but it makes me wonder. We're not giving up pick 27. I don't think so. If we were to give up pick 27 for Thibodeaux, obviously we're getting multiple picks back in return from the Giants, and then the contract situation is probably going to still be an issue. No way in the world do I think we're giving up a round 1 pick, but round 2 seems like something that will be possible if we're trying to collect a trio of pass rushers for the season. But I think Tavius Robinson is the one guy out of our remaining edge rushers that to me would be untouchable. Ojabo and or Decosta Isaac would be probably moved on. This is an inside long arm frame on the tackle, and he compresses the pocket. I will give you the all-22 angle in a moment. What I like about this is, first of all, that he's getting upfield and then veering back in. So some people call it speed to power, if you will. He's threatening upfield, and you'll see the depth of it in a moment, and then hands to the inside, specifically long arm, inside hand to the inside, trying to force a fumble, swat the ball away from Tua. I think inside moves are his best moves. I'm not saying his outside or topside rushes aren't any good at all, just based on the film that I've seen from, and pretty much I just pulled all of his sacks from 2023, all of his sacks from 2024, and then all of his tackles from 2024 as well. If you can't tell already, I would be all in. I would be all in if we talked about a round 2 pick and Thibodeaux coming back to us. Then we would probably be looking to move on for Mark Andrews. I think that's pretty clear. And, whether you agree with that or not, I just don't think that the Owe for Thibodeaux makes sense for this team. Am I saying that Owe's a better rusher than Thibodeaux? No. I think that Thibodeaux probably has more moves. He's more professional, more of a balanced nature. But I'd like to have both of them. I'd like to have both of them and Van Noy for his final run. This is going to be the same play from the all 22 angle, just so I can show you the collapsed nature of this one. So again, you've got the long arm inside move, and look how far upfield he's getting before veering back inside. So when I say speed to power, that's what I mean. He's trying to threaten to the top side. As soon as the tackle opens that foot here, now comes the inside move. Takes him down inside. He's big, strong, physical, exactly what was put out there on film at Oregon and what I think, made him such a great prospect. Again, and I'll link it up here in a moment in the video. I did a video of him from his rookie season. It was about an 8-minute segment. I spent about 8 minutes each on rookie edge rushers in that season. I'll try to create content like that this year. It's very difficult to do so on YouTube because as soon as you try to use film from 2 or 3 weeks ago during the season, it's all demonetized. I think he's got great awareness for when to take his path to the inside. The inside swat with 2 hands and a long arm frame, speed to power, I think is what other people would call it. Those are his best, if you ask me. Not that there aren't other wins, in my opinion. He's got a level of physicality that maybe wasn't described in the pre-draft process, and maybe even wasn't talked about a lot in 2022. He only had 4 sacks, and we're also quick to judge players in their rookie season. I think he's better in a 3-point stance. It's not that he doesn't rush the quarterback well from a stand-up position. For me, because he adjusts so well during the play, and his pad level, it to me looks better from a 3-point stance. I don't think he needs to see the quarterback. I don't think he needs to see things as well from a stand-up position because he's got great awareness. He essentially has great instincts. He's able to adjust during the play and get to the quarterback either inside, outside, spin, whatever. This is a stunt or an inside loop from a 2-point stance. It's really not a part of the play that he's in a 2-point stance. But for me, I think he's better in a 3-point opportunity. So there's the stunt. I think it's Simmons looping all the way around the yellow line and then Thibodeaux and the orange line going underneath. He plays through contact. The tackle gets his chest. Maybe he's given up his chest a little bit to try to hold the tackle for a moment. Not physically hold him himself, but hold his attention. So sometimes you do actually give up your chest for a moment, even though that sounds silly to say. And then he loops to the inside and then finishes off with a great burst and close. It's a big dude at 6'5", long arms, tested extremely well. We've got a significant amount of film of him as a pass rusher being effective. I think he's more unselfish than maybe was the description coming into the NFL. He played well in Wink Martindale's system in 2023. In my opinion, when he's healthy, he's a 10-sack guy at a floor. And now if you come on a good team, on a good defense with solid defensive tackles, I think it's possibly even more than that. I think him, Owe, Van Noy together really puts the Ravens defense over the top if we're able to draft a rookie defensive tackle that's really disruptive. But it's a numbers game. We've got issues at safety, offensive line. We need to draft. We're -2 there from a depth standpoint. And then defensive tackle is I have no idea how Eric Decosta could get this done, right? 27 not happening if you ask me. How those salary cap get handled. Maybe it's a second and Ojabo for Thibodeaux and nothing else. And then we've got a second deal created for Mark Andrews. I don't know. I get it. The perception or what's commonly held belief is that Owe would be moving on, so it would be Owe for Thibodeaux. Unless the New York Giants are just in love with Owe for whatever reason, The salary numbers are similar. I'm not sure what the rationale would be for the Giants to trade those guys one for one. That portion doesn't make sense to me. You're welcome to explain it to me. Maybe you understand it better. Explain it to me in the comment section if you wish. It seems like the Giants don't want to extend Thibodeaux or pick up his 5th-year option. It's another two-hand swat. This one's to the outside. You'll see that because the tackle leans out some to get the stab, and he does kind of stab Thibodeaux a little early, get him off balance briefly. Because he does stab, the next step ends up being really long. Talking about the left foot of the tackle here ends up being a really long step, and that step, he gets his feet crossed, and Thibodeaux is able to get upfield a little bit. Now, there's obviously a win here by Dexter Lawrence as well. By the way, Leonard Williams is on the Giants in this film here. This is 2023, before he got traded to the Seattle Seahawks. Ends up being a sack for Thibodeaux because of the pressure that was created, the stunt from Lawrence and from Leonard Williams, like I said, who's since moved on. I recognize many people won't like it. The perception or what's been put out there by people, far more accomplished and popular than myself is Oweh for Thibodeaux. Unless the Giants really like Oweh more than him, I don't see how that makes sense. I was a big fan of Thibodeaux leading up to the 2022 draft, so it's exciting to me because I focus on the film and I don't really care what happened with his recruiting or what happened at Oregon or how he was perceived in terms of how confident he was. Some people utilize the word arrogant. I just watched the film, and that's really all I have to go on. Two-hand swat here with a rip afterwards, so it's pretty much the same move that I showed you the first two plays, somewhat similar, but this is more direct, and he's really breaking Mekhi Becton's posture here. You can see Becton end up leaning over. Now he's done. Able to close the space, get to Zach Wilson. Like I said, part of a 3-sack game against the Jets that season, and in this case happens to be a forced fumble. I would not say that his strength is as a speed rusher, more of a complete pass rush guy, a nice set of moves, professional, high level. If he was a basketball player, he'd be a guy with a really nice mid-range game, shoots three-pointers well, but not often, and also can get to the basket and shoots free throws. If we are trying to recreate the Eagles model, which is what everyone's talked about since the Super Bowl, if we're trying to recreate the Eagles model, then we want all three of these guys, Oweh, Thibodeaux, and Van Noy for 2025. Look, if someone gets injured, then we still have two, right? The saying is where you have one, you have none. Where you have two, you have one. Well, where you have three, you have two. So I get it. The third guy here for us, I guess, on the depth chart right now is Tavius Robinson. And then after that, Ojabo and Adisa Isaac and whoever gets drafted. Another thing to mention about the Eagles model is we do have to be honest. The Chiefs had no left tackle in the Super Bowl, right? So our perception of what occurred there must at least take into account the fact that they were using a starting left guard as their left tackle. One more rep against Becton, and again, it's a two-hand swat. He's got the punch from Becton timed up perfectly. The two-hand swat had already worked earlier, and there it is, perfectly timed to win to the top side and get yet another sack. I will show you some plays against the run. I think he's pretty good against the run. I don't have any complaints about him playing against the run, but very similar to his play or to his pass rush moves. His best stuff is on inside moves, inside stems or stunts, if you will, against the run. If you hear my mouse clicking, I'm dealing with a new mouse, so hopefully I'll get a quiet mouse here soon and improve the presentation. So my apologies for that. But that's Thibodeaux, and you're going to get kind of a run concept away. Wide receiver is going to go across, almost like a split zone / hide look. He gets first contact. I think it's Ojulari is also on an inside move, 51, who's since moved on to the Eagles. So they've really pinched both of the ends down here. Create a mess of a run concept against that was a Cowboys offensive line that did take them to the playoffs in 2023. Obviously, was a mess last year. The key for me would be keeping Tavius Robinson for run situations. So on certain downs, pair Kayvon Thibodeaux with Tavis Robinson. Other downs, pair Tavis Robinson with Kyle Van Noy. Perhaps there's some situations against the pass where we have, all three of them on the field at the same time, but more so likely that there's just a rotation trying to keep those guys fresh. I think Van Noy's snaps were kept down by design last year anyway, and Thibodeaux being around along with along with Owe would certainly have the same impact. Here you've got a run concept, and look, the center's getting beat pretty bad on the back door here, so he's reaching initially to the play side. The back side, for whatever reason, seems to be really soft, and the nose tackle gets there first. Thibodeaux takes advantage of it and finishes off the play for a tackle for loss. All right, the last play that I'll show you, I think really reflects well on his understanding, his spatial awareness, and then the situation, meaning when it's appropriate, I think he's really good against the run. Am I going to say he's a great run defender consistently on every snap? No. But I think you can see certain moments when his stance is different. And basically, he's not a guesser, in my opinion. He plays the block. He plays his key well. Very reminiscent in some ways of Trayvon Walker. Different players, different styles, don't get me wrong. But in that he's a very good football player who reads his keys and doesn't guess. He's not just going for sacks, in my opinion. I don't know what New York media or any Giants fans would say about him. Perhaps if there's any that watch this long, you could let me know in the comment section. I don't think he's a 15, 16, 17 sack guy because of the fact that he just plays blocks the way you're supposed to and doesn't guess. Now, however, having said that, if you put him on our 2023 defense instead of, let's say, Jadeveon Clowney, yeah, he might have gotten to 13, 14, 15 sacks. We know that Clowney had 3 missed sacks, three really bad ones, early in the season, the first 3 weeks of the year. So he stands up the right guard here, and you're also going to get a great run fit by number 58, the inside linebacker. So we'll let this thing run. The guard is going to pull, kick/log Thibodeaux. If Thibodeaux goes underneath, he kind of flatlines it. You can see him step down with his key, which is the tight end in this case. He's also got the running back to his side, so there's a lot happening here from a visual standpoint, meaning you've got the tight end key, you've got the running back. Some defenses ask you to read those guys at the same time. So if the tight end steps down and the running back tries to cross your face, your rule is don't let him cross your face. That's not what happens here. Both of those guys step down, so Thibodeaux steps down as well. And then watch him stand this guard up. Now, the guard's foot also gets tangled up with the tight end. Why? Well, because 58's an ass kicker, at least on this play. I mean, total annihilation of the pulling tight end. Inside here, playing it to the outside linebacker. So what I'm talking about is inside linebackers are going to take it on with his outside shoulder. And that decimates the tight end. There's also some trash that he gets caught up in the pulling guard. The point is, 58 stands the tight end up. Thibodeaux stands the pulling guard up. And both of those guys get credit for the tackle. Rightfully so, in my opinion. Sometimes guys get credit for the tackle who, really didn't make the play. As I said earlier, you can probably tell I'd be a big fan if the Ravens were able to make this happen. If you want, and you may not like my idea that it would take a round 2 pick to possibly get it done, but if you want elite pass rush, then you have to pay for it. That's all I've heard, right? Is it, why won't the Ravens pay for elite pass rush? Well, here's a scenario. You could have it. Thibodeaux, Owe, Van Noy together, hopefully with T-Rob being the 4th guy. And maybe we draft another guy, and Isaac and or Ojabo both move on in some manner. And from a contract standpoint, from the salary cap standpoint, clearly we got some issues there to make this happen because of Thibodeaux's salary for his 4th year. But then we get his 5th year option, which would be quite low. He's still on a rookie contract. In my opinion, a lot of it works a whole lot better that way than it does just Thibodeaux for Owe, because then we still have the same needs in the draft, meaning we've got to look for an outside linebacker or 2, but probably 1, that we could draft to develop for 2026 and beyond if we didn't want to pick up the 5th year option on Kayvon Thibodeaux. So that's my theory. That's my option. It's probably different than other stuff that's out there. I don't want to move on from Owe. I think we've got him at a low salary structure from 2025. It just makes sense to continue to put him out there on the field and let him produce. I think he'll be a 10-sack guy. If we had Thibodeaux, Owe, and Van Noy, what would be your complaint if your desire or your focus this offseason has been we've got to improve the pass rush. I don't know how you could legitimately have one. In any case, let me know what you think of the video in the comment section, number one. Number two, if you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this commentary / film study on the possibility of adding Kayvon Thibodeaux to the Ravens roster either before or during the draft, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.